And thanks for joining us for another edition, a special edition of Weekend Winners. We're on to night 2 of Inter-Dominion 2025. We've got 3 pacing heats, 2 trotting heats coming our way this Saturday night from Albion Park, all part of a 10-race program. The support features are outstanding, highlighted by the Group 1 Proto Star, the $500,000 feature for the 2-year-olds. Really looking forward to that. The boys are back with me, Ryan Spice, Darren Clayton. Both have survived night 1. Ryan, I'll come to you firstly. Any major surprise or performance that just blew you back there last Saturday night?
I'm always in awe of what Leap to Fame can do, and probably out of the trotters, the failure of London to a Brick is probably disappointing for the series.
Okay, so Darren, the paces pretty much went to script. No real surprises. The trotters, as Ryan just outlined, a little bit up and down those results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess more to London to a Brick's point of view, Oscar Bonavina as well, what happened there. So probably 2, series favourites just about, both really going to be fighting hard this week to get into the final.
Okay, well, we'll stick on the trotters because there's 2 horses that I want to ask you both about. RC Phoenix, this week, he's got to overcome Gate 8, the inside of the second row. And Bet and Win, Ryan, there's this school of thought that maybe he's a little susceptible at a strong staying trip. He is a Road Cup winner at 2 miles, but there's plenty of chatter about that maybe he's just a little susceptible.
Yeah, I have heard that school of thought that perhaps he profiles more as a speed horse rather than a strong staying type. So maybe over the 3,000, if he did draw to advantage, he might even take cover. Wait and see. But around this track, 1,000 metre with a sprint lane, he looks like he's got all the weapons to get the job done.
Darren, what are your thoughts? RC Phoenix, it's a tricky draw on Saturday night. How do you think Chris Venozio is going to play this?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how it plays out. He's going to be dealt early pretty much the cards that Oscar Bonavina gets really, because does Oscar kick through and hold the lead, or does he get shuffled back? If he gets shuffled back, I think he gets out in plenty of time. I actually think RC Phoenix, I'm going a week early here, I think he wins the final. From what I've seen leading into it, what I saw last week, he's the horse I want to be on come Saturday week.
Do you have any thoughts on Bet and Win at a strong 2 miles?
Yeah, neither here nor there. I think his effort last week was good. There was a bit of concern about whether he would have enough speed to hold the lead. He put that to bed very early. He's a 2 mile cup winner in New Zealand, as you said. I think he will run the trip, no worries. I just think it depends on map come the final.
Okay, let's have a look at the leaderboard for the trotters going into night 2 this weekend. And Gus is at the top of the board there, although he didn't win a heat last week. He was second, picked up the maximum bonus points available, so he sits atop with 17 points. Golden Sunset, a heat winner last week, aided by a beautiful drive. 16 points, Bet and Win, the other heat winner, 16 points. RC Phoenix, 11 points, and then he got the 3 bonus points, takes him to 14. Not as promised, he was tremendous, 13 points. Parisian Artiste, really good, 11 points. Constantinople, an eye catcher, 10 points. Sir Fahrenheit, 9. Aldebaran, a crux, 8. Harry Stamper, 8. Tailad to use 7. Zealous Spur. So that's the top 12 there at this point going into the second round this Saturday night. Firstly, Ryan, just with the bonus points, do you like this new sort of concept, the way we've been able to work it?
My angle is from the paces. I felt like the heats were a little sedate. The lead times were slow, the first halves were just moderate, and then they've blazed home. So from thinking that we're dropping back to 2 heats from the traditional 3, I really thought Connections would have chanced their arm a little bit more, but maybe the bonus points had something to do with that. I'm not sure.
Was that pattern sort of right throughout the night, though? There was a number of other races last Saturday night. Sedate lead time, blazing last half. We saw it with the Rising Sun.
Maybe it was more to do with the first night of the carnival. People thinking that there's still 2 weeks to go after night 1. So maybe that was more the tail of the tape than just the actual system.
Okay. What feedback did you receive in the days since last Saturday night, where we've seen these bonus points put into play and Gus is at the top, although he didn't win a heat?
Yeah, that's probably one piece of feedback we have received, that a horse not winning a heat be leading the point scoring table. I think there's probably is an easy tweak around that of just making a heat victory 17 points, because running second and picking up 4 bonus points would then still have you at an equal mark then. So, but Gus, to be fair to Gus, his manners have let him down, which gives him that outside draw, so he's always going to have to work into the races. So he gets rewarded a little bit for the effort that he has to put into the races. So I think by and by it's worked out pretty well, and I think the other thing that has worked out well this week is the random allocation of the second round heats, where we get to see the two big guns go head-to-head a week early.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a massive talking point. We'll move straight to the Pacers side of things now. So Leap to Fame, the series favourite, tackles Don Hugo, the defending champ, on Saturday night. This is going to be a crucial clash in many ways, Ryan. This is going to shape the market for next week's grand final, because if Leap to Fame dominates, I think he was $1.25 at one point for the series. If he comes out and dominates Don Hugo this Saturday night, who knows how short he's going to be, regardless of barrier draw. But if Don Hugo gets that victory, we know he's beaten him before, so if he gets another one on him this Saturday night, maybe that tips the balance of power into his sort of corner.
Yeah, if he beats him fair and square over with the draw advantage here, without a doubt the betting needs to ease in the betting. Yeah. But you know, I can't have it any other way. Over a staying trip, this horse Leap to Fame is something else. So he was just arrogant night one over the 2100, and I don't think any horse can go with him over a staying trip.
Okay, so you love a stat. This is going to be your homework for the week. If Leap to Fame comes out and dominates Don Hugo on Saturday night, he looks like he's going to be the shortest price favourite of all time for an Inter-Dominion Grand Final. You're going to have to go through the record books to sort of see what sort of record he is going to break.
Might have to borrow your glasses, Chris. There could be some fine print in some of those older editions.
Well, this Saturday night, does he stay on the fence, or is he getting straight off Grant Dixon?
Well, Grant's apparently come out and said he's going back or getting off the fence at some point. If he doesn't, comes around and sits parked and puts Don away again, that's a massive flex going into next week.
I was really pleased to hear Grant be quite clear in his thoughts, and we know that this horse thrives with strong racing and frequent racing. I don't think you can actually afford to have a heat where if Luke was in front, he was on the peg line and they just crawled. Like, that would be to his detriment for next week. So yeah, straight off, let's make him run. Yeah,
and over the 13 furlongs, this is going to be interesting, and it's probably fair to say these two drivers, Luke McCarthy, Grant Dixon, are the two best tacticians going around, and they know Albion Park better than any other driver right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Luke's in front, regardless of the scenario, if he's got Grant on his back, he's going as slow as possible to then really turn it into a sprint home. If he knows Grant's gone back to come round, well, he's putting the speed on early to make him work. So, but at the same time, he needs to get that balance right, and it's going to be a great contest. But like you say, if Don can beat him this week, if Leap to Fame comes out and sits outside of him, can't put him away like he did in the Miracle Mile, what's that set us up for next week?
Well, let's have a look at the leaderboard after night one last Saturday night. Leap to Fame, he's got the maximum amount of points there, 16 for the race victory, 4 bonus points, so he sits atop with 20. Don Hugo, he's on 19. Catch a Wave, he was stunning there last week. 13 points for running second, 3 bonus points. He's also on good points there at 16. Sure Thing Captain, 16. Captain's Knock, terrific, 13 points. Pin Seeker, 13. Rakiro Rebel, Aroda and Pete Said So, 11. Better Eclipse, Tango Tara, See Ya Art, that's the top 12. And then we've got Tim's a Trooper, Max Delight, all on 9 points. So when you look at that leaderboard and then you look at the fields for this Saturday night, Ryan, there's a few there that really need to perform well to consolidate their spot in the $1 million final next week.
Yeah, Max Delight kind of can't put a foot wrong, can he? Yeah, but he was great night one, and I think the race for him on the weekend sets up really well.
Okay. Which horse are you looking at this week to really sort of perform well to make sure they're there next week in the big dance?
I think it's Captain's Knock. He gets every opportunity. Well, it's probably two, Captain's Knock and Catch a Wave. We know Catch a Wave can be like a yo-yo at times. He's up, he's down. He was up last week. That was super. So I think the final really needs him in it and him firing. And I think Captain's Knock, just from a perspective of, you know, just a little bit of X factor, because 2 gate 7s in a row, he gets a good gate in the final, you know, he's going to ride in the thick of it.
It's a good point you raised with Catch a Wave, because he's in that heat where he's got to go head-to-head with Don Hugo and Leap to Fame. So he's in the hardest heat possible there on Saturday night. So if he can back up what he delivered last week, all credit to him. But it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and he has been the ultimate enigma, hasn't he? But we saw the good catch a wave last week. I think the camp's been quite positive about how they're going to drive him, go back, look for cover and make one run again. And that all sets up well. He'll qualify and then be ready for the final the week later.
Okay, well, let's just have a look at some of the action from last Saturday night, night one, and we'll look at these pacing heats. So Sure Thing Captain was able to take out this first heat on Saturday night. He was able to roll to the front. He found really good support. And like Ryan outlined, it was a fairly easy lead time, and then they just blazed away, in particular over the final last mile, the final half mile. So he's easily shaken off Beach Ball, who was a real disappointment there last Saturday night. Frankie Ferocious loom momentarily, and that's Catch a Wave starting to sail right down the outside. Rakiro Rebel the mare's back on the inside, but Sure Thing Captain proves too good. So he was able to score impressively there last Saturday night. What about him at a trip, guys? Is there any sort of concern? Sure Thing Captain, 2,600 this week, 2 miles the following week.
We've always sort of profiled him at best as a miler in the middle trip, but he just seems to be strengthening up, and I reckon he's probably at his peak now, at his prime, so for me, no.
Darren?
Well, he's only had one go over, I think, 2,400. I don't think he's gone to 2,600, so it's uncharted waters. I agree with Ryan. We've pegged him perhaps more that middle distance as his peak. From what I've seen last week, if he gets a similar type trip, they won't run him down. Okay,
well, let's have a look at Don Hugo. This was Heat 2 last Saturday night. He got a perfect drive here by Luke McCarthy, so that's him there, 1-1. He had gate 10. He went forward early, and lo and behold, there's a yawning gap right on the back of Captain's Knock. So we've got a great horse to follow. He peels here at the top of the straight, and he proves too strong. So he gets over the top of Captain's Knock. Tremendous in defeat. I'll ask this question, and this is no knock on Don Hugo, but if he doesn't get that trip that he got there last Saturday night, does he win that heat?
Great question. Not really sure.
Yeah.
The way Captain's Knock didn't shirk the task, you'd have to say if Brad kicked up and then rolled to the top and Don was left parked, you know, maybe Captain's Knock would have won that heat. The run out of that race I did like. Tim's a trooper. He was last at the bell and he's only finished a few lengths off them. He was excellent.
He got a bonus point as well for that performance. Yeah. What about you? If he doesn't get that trip, Don Hugo, is there a little bit of doubt there?
Oh, I think there's a seed, at least, because I think Luke was getting a bit keen in the home straight as well. He had to drive him out, so you never know, but maybe that's part of the cat and mouse tactics. Was he, you know, just flailing his arms for no reason?
Well, we'll probably find out more on Saturday night. Heat 3 last Saturday night. This was the heat that featured the champ. Leap to Fame. He took no chances. Grant Dixon off the fence immediately, circled in front. Just passing the mile marker, and then it was just lights out from here. Pin Seeker did his best to hold his spot there on the back of Leap to Fame, but he just drops into another gear at the top of the straight, and he's off and gone. So Pin Seeker's doing his best, and getting back to the inside there to run the place was Pete Said So. So they were good. Max Delight, he's done a fair job, given that he had such a bad draw and given that blazing last mile. So I don't think it probably proved anything, Leap to Fame doing what he did. All it did confirm was that he is the #1 horse right now.
Sure is, Chris. He's something else. Hard held in 52, and you know, the fastest heat, the fastest last star, fastest out. It's just
tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, he's a pleasure to watch, and you know, we'd love to see packed grandstands for a horse of this quality every week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll ask this to you. Is it possible he could be getting better? He's a 6-year-old, he's a fully matured stallion. Is there still room for improvement, or is the opposition just getting a little weaker? And I don't mean that with any disrespect, but he just seems like he's just elevating his game each and every time he steps out.
Yeah, we mentioned this earlier this week, Chris. I think he is, this season, I think definitely anyways, some of his best runs. His run in New Zealand at Cambridge in that race there was enormous. His Newcastle Mile win was massive. His Hunter Cup second was probably one of his career highlight runs, and he got nutted. But you know, he is just the all-round racehorse. He does everything right. You know, whenever Grant wants to go somewhere, he just, you know, smirk him up and away he goes. But he's the king and Albion Park's his castle at the moment.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and it's testament to Grant and Trista the way they manage this horse as well. He turns up, he's ready to race each and every time, and he just doesn't disappoint. So, looking forward to this race on Saturday night. We'll get to that clash a little bit later between him and Don Hugo. Let's just have a look back at the heats from the Trotters last week. The first heat went the way of the local Golden Sunset. From gate 8, Nathan Dawson was in front here, passing the mile marker. We mentioned last week she had a really good trial on the Tuesday prior to this heat, and she backed it up. As I said, it was a lovely drive, and at the top of the straight, maybe she was just starting to, look a little vulnerable, but she dug in deep. Time was strong, so there was a lot to like about. That's Gus really starting to rocket down the outside. Parisian Artiste going with Gus, but Golden Sunset, the drive, won the race.
Yeah, it was a peach from Nathan Dawson without a doubt, and just held off the fast finishing Gus. Of course, the major talking point was the Oscar Bonavena drive, the driver electing to stay in at the 600. He'll be out for redemption this week, Adam Sanderson, but as fate has it, he's now got Barrier 1, where the horse has got history of having some dramas at times. So can Adam pull a rabbit out of the hat and get the job done?
Well, he's probably the driver under most pressure going into Saturday night because of what happened there last week. So he's really got to bring his A game, nothing but his A game.
I think it's a good show of faith by Connections that they've left him on. The fact that Mark Purden's the co-trainer, the co-owner, and was here last week, will be here again this week, and he's left Adam on. So he's giving him his chance of redemption. It didn't pan out there. There was a couple of good runs in behind Gus and Golden Sunset, the winner there. Sir Fahrenheit, he was good, fresh up, blasted the arm from gate 7 and was still boxing on, so pretty good run there. And Parisian Artiste, you mentioned, it was a good effort as well, and I think he'll get some good points again this week. Yeah,
it certainly looks like he comes up with a nice draw. The other heat there last Saturday night for the Trotters, this was the heat that featured Bet and Win. He was the clear favourite. He had no trouble in leading from Barrier 1. There was talk around that maybe Barrier 1 wasn't going to be ideal, but he was able to hold up. He led comfortably. Not as promised on his outside there, really taking the fight to Bet and Win, and that's RC Phoenix. Just a little bit of a concern the way he wanted to hang in there on that final bend, but once he balanced, he was able to knuckle down strongly. So they were all good, and I thought Harry Stamper was quite okay out of that heat as well, given the issues that he had. I think he pulled a shoe there, which may have caused that early break. Constantinople just passing him there late. So what was the main takeaway from that heat with Bet and Win?
We certainly know he's got the speed early to use now, so that's a good little bit of a tick in the box. So if he does draw well in the final, he looks like he could easily cross and get over for sure. He held them on the line quite strongly. It was really taken with the not as promised run. We saw him trial super. Things didn't kind of work out for him there, and he was really brave in defeat, sitting parked and boxing on. So that was a good find. And RC Phoenix, well, he just looks like he's now going to progress beautifully through the series. He's done enough there. He got that little tricky draw in this heat, but you'd be hard pressed to suggest that he's not running top 3 again, regardless of what happens in run. So yeah, I think for me, the trotting series is wide open.
Yeah. Certainly looks that way. We had half the field 18 months ago, December 2023, in the Trotters final. They performed well on night 1, and it's interesting, and we'll talk more about this later, but Golden Sunset not as promised. Nathan Dawson was put into a situation. He had to pick one or the other this Saturday night because they're in the same heat. Were you surprised that he opted for not as promised, or given that history that he's got with that horse and the highs that he's experienced, made it fairly clear-cut?
Yeah, I think there was probably already a preordained plan there that was the case. Shane Graham has driven Golden Sunset before, so there's no concerns there from the Grimsey stable. Got a driver who knows the horse, so yeah, I think that was already sort of sorted out before. It was a good run. That was the best he's been since probably before he went to New Zealand. Didn't really go to plan over there. But as we said, that trial showed he was back somewhere near his best.
Okay, well, that was a look back at last Saturday night. That's night 1. So we're going to dig deep into the form now. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to go race by race with all of these Inter-Dominion heats, plus the Group 1 feature, the $500,000 Proto Star. Looking at the first heat for the Pacers on Saturday night. So this is heat 4 for the pacing series, and this race is scheduled to start at 5:29. 10 races on Saturday night, our first race getting underway at 4:54. So let's get straight into the action here. Let's have a look at the lineup, the barrier draw for this heat. And Sure Thing Captain was the big winner here, coming up with another good draw. So he had gate 4 last week. There's a few that have drawn the same gate as what they did on the opening night. Captain's Knox got 7 again. Leap to Fame has 8 again. And Sure Thing Captain has gate 4. So that's how they're going to line up. Keeping in mind, we go from 2,138 metres, now we're up to the 2,680, so we keep progressing in distance. As far as this heat is concerned, Ryan, Sure Thing Captain, he opened very short immediately after the barrier draw. No real surprise when you keep looking at the heat though, and given where some of the other major players have drawn.
I think it's, quite logical why he's opened so short. He does look like he'll find the top again within the space of 300 to 400 metres. So yeah, he's the one to beat, but of course there's that little niggle that he's stepping out to 2,600. Turn It Up drawing the front line here. The Gazelle, over he goes without a doubt. I think he crosses early and then looks to hand up. For me, the little trick in the race is, I think Tim's a Trooper shouldn't spear out and dive straight to the fence. I think he should get out as hard as he can, wait for Turn It Up, and then hopefully be the first horse there. And that way he'd map beautifully sitting on Sure Thing Captain.
Yeah, just looking back at that replay, he was really dominant there last week, Sure Thing Captain. So I think there's still a fair bit of upside with this guy. I'm keen to have a look at your speed map here, just on that point that Ryan just touched on. Turn It Up, gate 7. You look at this front line, he could lead with his eyes closed for fun here.
Yeah, well, I think he's somewhere around the 35 out of 36 starts he's led off the front line at Albion Park. The one time Always Smoking held him out one night. To put the left-hand blinker on, touchdown in front, release Sure Thing Captain. That's the way it looks. Whether it is that simple, we'll see on Saturday night. But if that's a situation that does unfold, I'd like to see Whisper a Secret put in the race early this time. Bit of conjecture about where he's actually been this campaign. I've dug a bit deeper into his form. He actually hasn't been that bad. He's just had circumstances against him. He drew gate 7 one night, ran Leap to Fame to a close margin. His sectional times last week, his individual times, were actually as good as anything in the race. It was just nothing could make ground from back in the field, but his own times were good. He held the back of Max Delight throughout. Coming up the stretch, so it's D-Day for him for sure if they want to be in this final. So whether he goes forward, I don't think he can make up the ground. So yeah, I think they fill their positions. Like Ryan said, Tim's a Trooper probably gets a good spot there at some point, and the rest are trying to make ground from the back at some stage in the race.
Okay, Ryan, I'm keen to ask you about Tim's a Trooper. You highlighted him last week. He performed really well, got a bonus point. So with this good draw on Saturday night, he's put himself in a really good spot to, consolidate himself being in that $1 million grand final. But as you outlined last week, we're getting up in trip. Yes. Is there a little bit of a concern there with Tim's a Trooper?
Oh, look, that's the way he's profiled to me, that his best trips is mile and the middle trip for sure. But I think from this really good draw, he can earn good points here. I was really disappointed last week with Turn It Up. Like, he just dove 4 pegs, sweet trip, and in some ways he was the first horse off the bit over at the 300. So I think here, Grant, if he did map and pushed over and sat behind Turn It Up, I think that could be to his detriment. I think he might just stay off and try and be the first horse there, take the front, and then sit on Sure Thing Captain from there. And if he's got that leader's back trip, couldn't see him missing a drum. Down the bottom, Max Delight, really love what he did, what he's done all prep actually. Yeah. I think he'll get round them and sit parked here at some stage when they drop anchor. I reckon he can tough it out and definitely run a place.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's just got to make the move as quickly as he can, Will Rickson.
Yeah, some of those ones, that's how they need to attack the race, because they need to get forward. Not really going to make ground, I don't think, at any point. The tempo in this one probably not going to be super strong in the middle stages, so it's going to be an on-pace dictated race you would expect.
So a couple of horses here. Tim's a Trooper, Turn It Up, Max Delight. If they all perform well, they're going to give themselves every chance of being there next week, depending on other results and other heats.
It's definitely Tim's a Trooper and Max Delight. I probably against the old boy being able to being lit up and still, I think he'd probably have to run top 3 to make the final, at least. For me, Whisper a Secret, rate that horse so highly. He was really ordinary 2 starts ago, and then he kind of was just driven neutrally in the first round. So I don't know where he's at, so I've definitely dropped off there.
Do you rate him at all this week?
I can't back him.
Yeah.
I hope from a series point of view that he comes out and puts in a huge performance and makes the final, but off his last 2, I can't see it.
Okay, so you're sure thing captain?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you tipping as the hardest to beat for sure thing captain?
Yeah, Max Delight for me.
Yeah.
There was that run probably 3 or 4 starts ago where he sat 3 deep over the mile at Menangle in 50 and didn't shirk it and nearly got the job done. So I think he can come around Sit Park and tough it out and run second to sure thing captain. Tim's a trooper. If he gets that perfect map like I think he can, he's a clear top 3 hope. And Tango Tara was really good night 1.
Yeah, he's another one that picked up a bonus point as well, Tango Tara, like Tim's a trooper. Darren, you're with sure thing captain?
Yeah, I think he can get to the front and slow them up enough that he can win this. Like, I don't know where the pressure comes from if he does touch down relatively easily. So he's on top. I don't like the price, but
yeah,
you know, that's just the way it is as a result of this heat.
Okay, and you're expecting Whisperer Secret a better run?
I'm expecting a better run. Like I said, I don't think he's been as bad as some of the figure form suggests. I certainly think there's been some excuses, and last week was one of those.
Okay, I'm sure thing captain as well, given that he's got that good front row draw. Max Delight, I think he can run a really good race despite the poor draw. I thought I Break the Line might be a value hope. I thought he was okay there last week because he had to do a lot of work, and I don't think that's his style, and Turn It Up. I'm giving the old fella some sort of chance. I think he'll blast out, hand over. If he can run top 4, maybe he just pushes himself into that big $1 million final next week. That is going to be an interesting heat. It's heat number 4. It's race 2 on the program. Start time for that race is at 5:29. This is round 2, heat 3 for the Trotters. It comes up as race number 3 on Saturday night, 6:05 start time. And for mine, this is a really good heat here on Saturday night. The 2 opening night heat winners go head to head. Bet and Win Golden Sunset. Let's have a look at the barrier draw. This all took place last Saturday night. Bet and Win comes up with another good draw, gate 3. Golden Sunset, she moves to the front row. New driver Shane Graham takes the lines and she's out in 6. On her outside is London to a Brick. Zella Spur is there. You got Not As Promised and Gus. So for mine, this is the stronger of the 2 heats, and the way the barrier draw has set up Ryan, this is going to be a good clash here.
Yeah, clear advantage for me to the Kiwi Bet and Win here from the good draw. We know he's got gate speed. Looks a worthy odds-on favourite in this heat.
Okay, were you surprised he went up as short as what he did, Bet and Win, Darren?
Probably not off what he did last week. That said, like you mentioned, it is the stronger of the 2 heats. So yeah, maybe just a little bit shorter considering what Gus did last week, the way he savaged the line, and with Golden Sunset there. So yeah, probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay, there looks like there's going to be good genuine tempo in this heat as well. So Bet and Win, he'll be looking to probably lead again. Golden Sunset, I'm sure they'll be going forward. Not sure what to expect with London to a Brick, and Not As Promised, you would expect at some point he's going to have to make a move at some point in this race. So bottom line, there is going to be a good genuine tempo throughout.
Yeah, they might drop anchor through the middle stages, but it all kind of comes down to what London to a Brick does. If he brings his A game, trots beautifully, then you know he'll be probably rolling forward to Sit Park, but we know Not As Promised isn't going to sit back either. So I think at the bell, it'll be Bet and Win in front, maybe Golden Sunset on his back if it was able to get over. They might even just sort of let Golden Sunset do a thing and then roll to the top. I think Gus will be driven to pattern.
Yeah.
I actually love his prep. I think they've just not taught him to race, but they've said, this is how we're going to drive you, and they've stuck to it all prep. And he had that one mishap where he broke early, and that's his only blemish. So he got home super.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them stay the course, drive him conservative, let him flash home, make the final. Fingers crossed.
Okay. Any concern at the 2 mile about him, Gus, just going further ahead to next week for the final? Do you have any concern with him at a trip?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. You could say that about Oscar Bonavina too. It's probably going to come down to tempo. If it was like a really hard, super slog staying contest, I don't know who will be left standing.
Yeah. A question for you. With London to a Brick, given that blemish that he had there last week, does he have to win this heat? Is that the only chance he's got of being there for the final the following week?
Well, 16 points for a win. I think 16, I did some sort of mapping around that. I think 16 is about the cutoff. So he probably has to win, or he has to run a really good second and pick up some bonus points.
So he's got a lot in front of him on
He's
Saturday
got a lot
night.
in front of him, and gate 7 doesn't make it any easier when the speed to his inside. We saw him effectively make 2 gate breaks last week. There was the false start, and then it wasn't long after the start. It was just on the turn out of the home straight. So he's probably pretty lucky there to avoid a scenario where he potentially could have got stood down a trial as well, which he would have been allowed complete on Tuesday, but still to have that hanging over your head going into this. Hopefully Jimmy Rattray's got him right, because the series probably needs him when he's right. 2-time Albion Park Group 1 winner. But yeah, he's got it ahead of him.
Okay, so how did you map this race? Because Bet and Win's drawn well, Golden Sunset is a gate speed mare, so how do you sort of have these horses positioned at the bell?
Yeah, well, I think, like we said there, Bet and Win, I was a bit concerned with him last week. No drums there. I think he can get across the 2 to his inside pretty early on. I think Golden Sunset, they can send her forward early and get right up there. We saw what she did in front. She was driven in the front in a Trotters Marathon here earlier this year and only got rolled in the closing stages, so sent forward. That was a standing start that time, but sent forward there. So I can't see why they wouldn't want to go forward. That works, and if that were to be the case, I'm pretty sure Bet and Win would quite happily take a trail on her, knowing that she's a pretty strong and informed mare. So I'd see probably Not As Promised then rolling around to sit parked at some point, maybe sooner rather than later, and I think they just fill their spots thereafter. I think London to a Brick will cart Gus into the race, which will be ideal for Gus, as Ryan said. He's been super, rattling off speed.
You raised your eyebrows when that speed map went up, Ryan, so I'm tipping that Bet and Win for you is going to be in front. Take no prisoners approach here.
Yeah, that's my gut feel. I think they'll want to try to dictate and slow it down from the front end. And I think Golden Sunset over 2,600. For mine, I think they'd be happy to see it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so as far as selections are concerned, are you sticking with Bet and Win, or are you looking for a little bit more value?
No, I think he's the play. Yeah, without a doubt, got him on top. Just because I do map him in front and dictating. A little bulldog, Gus, he's going to knock him off soon. Geez, he was close last week. Not As Promised, great to see him bounce back, really good for the series. And Golden Sunset's in that boat too. You know, she went down to Menangle and it didn't work out, and then she had the other failure as well. So yeah, really good for the series from a depth point of view, but for me, the Kiwi just with the good draw.
Okay, is that the same for you, Darren?
Yeah, exact same numbers. The other factor that probably puts Bet and Win on top for me, consistency, and you know what you get. Gus, while he has been really good, can be have that little bit of enigma attached to him. Not As Promised has sort of been up and down a little bit, more up last week, and Golden Sunset, well, she'll just run a normal good race.
All right, well, I'm with Bet and Win as well. I'm hoping for all the best with London to a Brick. I'd like to see him perform because, as you guys have outlined, he's a high-quality trotter, former track record holder here at Albion Park. So hoping that he produces his best. He needs to. Gus, I think, will be winding up late again, and Not As Promised, he's certainly in the mix as well. Wouldn't be shocked if he really took it to these horses over this trip as well. I think the longer the better for him. So he's definitely got winning claims, but it's going to be a good heat, this one. I think it's easily the deepest of the 2 trotting heats coming up on Saturday night. It's race number 3, and start time is at 6:05. Looking at the first heat for the Pacers on Saturday night. So this is heat 4 for the pacing series, and this race is scheduled to start at 5:29. 10 races on Saturday night. Our first race getting underway at 4:54. So let's get straight into the action here. Let's have a look at the lineup, the barrier draw for this heat. And Sure Thing Captain was the big winner here, coming up with another good draw. So he had gate 4 last week. There's a few that have drawn the same gate as what they did on the opening night. Captain's Knox got 7 again. Leap to Fame has 8 again. And Sure Thing Captain has gate 4. So that's how they're going to line up. Keeping in mind, we go from 2,138 metres, now we're up to the 2,680, so we keep progressing in distance. As far as this heat is concerned, Ryan, Sure Thing Captain, he opened very short immediately after the barrier draw. No real surprise when you keep looking at the heat though, and given where some of the other major players have drawn.
I I think it's, quite logical why he's open so short. He does look like he'll find the top again within the space of 300 to 400 metres. So yeah, he's the one to beat, but of course there's that little niggle that he's stepping out to 2600. Turn it up drawing the front line here. The Gazelle, over he goes without a doubt. I think he crosses early and then looks to hand up. For me, the little trick in the race is, I think Tim's a Trooper shouldn't spear out and dive straight to the fence. I think he should get out as hard as he can, wait for Turn It Up, and then hopefully be the first horse there. And that way he'd map beautifully sitting on Sure Thing Captain.
Yeah, just looking back at that replay, he was really dominant there last week, Sure Thing Captain. So I think there's still a fair bit of upside with this guy. I'm keen to have a look at your speed map here, just on that point that Ryan just touched on. Turn It Up, gate 7. You look at this front line, he could lead with his eyes closed for fun here.
Yeah, well, I think he's somewhere around the 35 out of 36 starts he's led off the front line at Albion Park. The one time Always Smoking held him out one night. Yeah, to put the left-hand blinker on, touchdown in front, release Sure Thing Captain. That's the way it looks. Whether it is that simple, we'll see on Saturday night. But if that's a situation that does unfold, I'd like to see Whisper a Secret put in the race early this time. Bit of conjecture about where he's actually been this campaign. I've dug a bit deeper into his form. He actually hasn't been that bad. He's just had circumstances against him. He drew gate 7 one night, ran Leap to Fame to a close margin. His sectional times last week, his individual times, were actually as good as anything in the race. It was just nothing could make ground from back in the field, but his own times were good. He held the back of Max Delight throughout. Coming up the stretch, so it's D-Day for him for sure if they want to be in this final. So whether he goes forward, I don't think he can make up the ground. So yeah, I think they fill their positions. Like Ryan said, Tim's the Trooper probably gets a good spot there at some point, and the rest are trying to make ground from the back at some stage in the race.
Okay, Ryan, I'm keen to ask you about Tim's a Trooper. You highlighted him last week. He performed really well, got a bonus point. So with this good draw on Saturday night, he's put himself in a really good spot to, consolidate himself being in that $1 million grand final. But as you outlined last week, we're getting up in trip. Yes. Is there a little bit of a concern there with Tim's a Trooper?
Oh, look, that's the way he's profiled to me, that his best trips is mile in the middle trip for sure. But I think from this really good draw, he can earn good points here. I was really disappointed last week with Turn It Up. Like, he just dove 4 pegs, sweet trip, and in some ways he was the first horse off the bit over at the 300. So I think here, Grant, if he did map and pushed over and sat behind Turn It Up, I think that could be to his detriment. I think he might just stay off and try and be the first horse there, take the front, and then sit on Sure Thing Captain from there. And if he's got that leader's back trip, couldn't see him missing a drum. Down the bottom, Max Delight, really love what he did, what he's done all prep actually. Yeah. I think he'll get round them and sit parked here at some stage when they drop anchor. I reckon he can tough it out and definitely run a place.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's just got to make the move as quickly as he can, Will Rickson.
Yeah, some of those ones, that's how they need to attack the race, because they need to get forward. Not really going to make ground, I don't think, at any point. The tempo in this one probably not going to be super strong in the middle stages, so it's going to be an on-pace dictated race you would expect.
So a couple of horses here. Tim's a Trooper, Turn It Up, Max Delight. If they all perform well, they're going to give themselves every chance of being there next week, depending on other results and other heats.
It's definitely Tim's a Trooper and Max Delight. I probably against the old boy being able to being lit up and still, I think he probably have to run top 3 to make the final, at least. For me, Whisper a Secret, rate that horse so highly. He was really ordinary 2 starts ago, and then he kind of was just driven neutrally in the first round. So I don't know where he's at, so I've definitely dropped off there.
Do you rate him at all this week?
I can't back him. Yeah. I hope from a series point of view that he comes out and puts in a huge performance and makes the final, but off his last 2, I can't see it.
Okay, so you're Sure Thing Captain?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you tipping as the hardest to beat for Sure Thing Captain?
Yeah, Max Delight for me. Yeah. There was that run probably 3 or 4 starts ago where he sat 3 deep over the mile at Menangle in 50 and didn't shirk it and nearly got the job done. So I think he can come around, sit park and tough it out and run second to Sure Thing Captain. Tim's a trooper. If he gets that perfect map like I think he can, he's a clear top 3 hope. And Tango Tara was really good night 1.
Yeah, he's another one that picked up a bonus point as well, Tango Tara, like Tim's a trooper. Darren, you're with Sure Thing captain?
Yeah, I think he can get to the front and slow them up enough that he can win this. Like, I don't know where the pressure comes from if he does touch down relatively easily. So he's on top. I don't like the price, but yeah, you know, that's just the way it is as a result of this heat. Okay,
and you're expecting Whisperer Secret a better run?
I'm expecting a better run. Like I said, I don't think he's been as bad as some of the figure form suggests. I certainly think there's been some excuses, and last week was one of those.
Okay, I'm Sure Thing captain as well, given that he's got that good front row draw. Max Delight, I think he can run a really good race despite the poor draw. I thought I Break the Line might be a value hope. I thought he was okay there last week because he had to do a lot of work, and I don't think that's his style. And Turn It Up, I'm giving the old fella some sort of chance. I think he'll blast out, hand over. If he can run top 4, maybe just pushes himself into that big $1 million final next week. That is going to be an interesting heat. It's heat number 4. It's race 2 on the program. Start time for that race is at 5:29. Round 2, heat 4 for the Trotters comes up as race number 5 on the program. This race scheduled to start at 7:15. This is the intriguing heat with the Trotters this week. Oscar Bonavina, gate 1. Is that a good draw? Well, we're going to find out. And drawn directly behind him is RC Phoenix, who's considered by many as the horse to beat in next week's $500,000 grand final. So how is this going to play out? Well, I'm not so sure. Hopefully these guys can help me out, Ryan and Darren. So Oscar Bonavina, Ryan, I'll go to you firstly. Bad last week, horrible watch if you launched into him. Me there. What happens here? What does your intel say with barrier 1?
My research tells me that barrier 1 is probably the one draw he didn't want. He's got history of galloping from this gate, and we've got RC Phoenix drawn hard on his hammer. I think without a doubt, if Oscar had have tipped and rolled at the 600, I think he would have spaced Rivals there. And then what price would he be here? That's the interesting question. How does it play out? I think the one given for me is that Constantinople is going to be hustled early to try and get over and find the fence. Oscar's got to be held together, and it's Adam Sanderson's shot for redemption here. I think he certainly owes connections.
Okay. If you backed Oscar last week, are you doubling down this week?
No.
No? You're done?
He's in the rack there. Sorry, Oscar. Sorry, Adam. But yeah, he's out.
Yep, okay. So mapping this race, it wouldn't have been easy because, like many, I'm sure you're not sure what to expect with Oscar Bonavina, given that he's got that ideal draw.
And the thing is, I don't think it's not only when he's drawn inside previously where he has been a little bit questionable, it's even when he's been hustled hard off the arm, he's questionable. We saw that in the tab or the trot slot race there at Cambridge where they pushed the button early and he was all lost. Considering he's a 9-year-old, you'd expect those sort of tendencies would be gone now. So I think first and foremost, getting him away safely will be the number 1 task, because ultimately a spot in the final is what they would be wanting, not necessarily chips in just to hold the lead here. So with that in mind, Constantinople, I think he runs the arm, I think he gets across. He's a pretty good performer out in front. He's shown that at Menangle, so Luke McCarthy gets an opportunity. He savaged the line last week too, really hit the line. I think he picked up one of the bonus points, so he'll be out there. I think Aldebaran, a crux, probably has to sit parked again, tucked in there behind around them. Harry Stamper, I think RC Phoenix might just be a bit of the leap to fame model here of ease back, get to the outside and really run on, because I think if that goes to plan, that will suit him. If that's how it plays out, I think he wins the race.
Okay. Majestic Leveros, an early scratching out of that heat as well. He's picked up a little bit of a virus, so that probably explains his performance there last week. Can we find value in this heat, Ryan? If you're not keen to back Oscar Bonavina following what happened last week, you're not sure where RC Phoenix is going to be given the barrier draw, what's likely to be value that could be seriously entertained?
I'm not sure, Chris. Probably after I did this race, I was happy to shoulder arms here. Yeah. There's just too many unknowns, and Oscar and RC are clearly the the two on talent. And Parisian Artiste was great. I think they'll do the same copybook, drop out, come with one run. Maybe the place angles, the 4 and the 5, if you were really keen to have a bet.
Okay, so Darren, which way are you going in this heat?
Yeah, I'm going with RC Phoenix. I think he gets off at some point, and I think he gets around them to win the race. I think Parisian Artiste, the way he hit the line last week, similar run, will certainly help him. Oscar, wherever he is, perhaps he runs on, I'm not sure, and Constantinople, he'll be boxing on. So 8-4-1-5.
Okay, Ryan, you're tipping Oscar Bonavena.
Yeah, well, class can prevail, so fingers crossed he gets away safely. What price is he if he gets away safely? That's my rationale.
I think the big question is, if he gets away safely, where does he position?
There'll be plenty of room to work off.
You clearly didn't back him last week.
Correct.
You're tipping him this week. Because Darren and I, no thank you. No thank you. So I'm RC Phoenix as well to beat Oscar Bonavena. Parisian Artiste was good last week, and Harry Stamper, he might be the value. I thought he was more than okay last week. So 8-1-4-11. Will it be 1? Will it be 8? That seems to be the flavour there. Will it be Don? Will it be Larry? Will it be Oscar? Will it be RC Phoenix? We're about to find out. That's race number 5, 7:15 start time. That's the 4th heat for the Trotters. 7:43 start time for race 6, and this is heat 6 for the Pacers. So many are considering this to be the weakest of the 3 heats coming up on Saturday night, but at the end of the day, there's still some really good points up for grabs here, and there's going to be some key runners that are knocking on the door to make sure they're there next week for that $1 million final. So Ryan, captain's knock. 2 weeks in a row, gate 7. Can you believe it? Tremendous last week in defeat behind Don Hugo. Can he overcome this same draw again and take the lion's share of the points?
Oh, of course he can, but I don't map him in front, so over 2,600 if you're sitting parked, it's the long way home without a doubt. It was really good for the series though to see him bounce back strongly with a massive second behind Don Hugo after what were 2 below par runs at Menangle. So great for the series. Can he win here, of course? Will he? I'm leaning against.
Okay. So Darren, the other big horse in this race that has some sort of chance of forcing his way in, he might just, be right on the edge there, but Speak the Truth. He disappointed last week. He was in that same heat as his stablemate, Sure Thing captain. He finished out the back, 9th across the line. So he needs to really perform here. And he gets conditions tailor-made. Comes up with a kind draw, and he steps up in trip 2680. So that looks tailor-made for him. He's going to be the big improver.
It's a funny game, isn't it? We're bagging Oscar Bonavena and saying no, not again. Yet here I am forgiving Speak the Truth and saying he can. So, it's one of those things. Yes, he was playing. The start prior on the Friday here at Albion Park, he was super. If he can produce that type of run, he can win this race. But I think it just comes down to that big if of what he produced last week. Should he have been in a better spot? Did he get, potentially carted back here? Yes, Beach Ball was in reverse and he copped a bit of the backwash, but when he got out, he had his chance to run on, and he probably didn't really sort of make any ground. He didn't get past those horses that were there, and, he gets his opportunity for redemption. So, ball's in his court.
Okay, he's the key horse here, Speak the Truth, given that he's got this good draw, Ryan. So when you look at this front line, is it overloaded with pace or is it just a steady front line?
Well, we saw Doug's Platter come out on roller skates last week and cross, so do they chance their arm again, considering they led, took a sit and dropped out? I think no. Speak the Truth, led a miracle mile. That's enough for me. I have him pegged as the one on the front end here. I'm really forgiving of Speak the Truth last week. I think it was a big pass mark. The race shape just didn't suit. He got shuffled out and they blazed the half. He needs constant tempo, last man standing type of 28 sectionals. That's his go in life these days. So I think if he can lead and roll, not make it a walk and a dash, that's how he beats Captain's Knock.
All right, so how did you map this race, Darren? Speak the Truth in front with a lap left to run?
No, I thought Captain's Knock would be put forward and put there, and I think Speak the Truth can certainly get to the pegs. I think maybe they just potentially hand up 2,600, let Captain's Knock go. We'll see. He's either in front or Captain's Knock's probably parked if they want to park him. So either scenario there, and I think they just fill their slots thereafter. Doug's Platter, Cam Hart goes on this week, so that'll be a different shape there from, like Ryan said, we saw him get out hard. He could potentially get out hard there last week. Cam Hart drove Speak the Truth last week, so he'll know what the story is there. Yeah, big points on offer for someone to step forward. Rakiro Rebel, another good performance from her will get her into the final. She also has the backup of the Golden Girl as the lone mare in the series.
Okay, so Ryan, which way are you tipping in this race?
Yeah, I'm with the local hope, Speak the Truth. I really like how he bounced back 2 starts ago in really quick time. I think he can lead for a very long way here, and if that plays out, I hope they're kind of running the first half. I hope they sort of run like a 58 first half and got his main danger and rival on his outside. So that's the way I can see it playing out. Captain's Knock was great last week. Of course he can win here. But off pegs over 2,600, really tough ask without cover. And Rakiro Rebel, I'm not sure where she gets to from this really awkward draw for her, but she certainly is a quality mare.
Okay, Darren, you're with?
Captain's Knock.
Okay.
I think he was good last week. You know, season now. They've worked out the issue that he had from the previous Menangle run. I think we'll see an Inter-Dominion heat winner like he was last Inter-Dominion.
Okay. I'll tell you one thing with Captain's Knock, he's had no luck with barrier draws in any of the features that he's contested here throughout his career at Albion Park, and that probably goes for the bulk of feature races throughout his career. This is going to be a good challenge. Do I want to step in and take the odds on offer right now about Captain's Knock? No, but I thought he was the best run out of the heats last week when you're looking at this heat here on Saturday night. So I'll stick with him, 7 Captain's Knock. Speak the Truth has to be better. And he gets every opportunity here on Saturday night. Rakiro Rebel's an interesting one. I agree with Ryan. I'm not sure where she's at, and this could be a difficult draw for her. And Beach Ball, he disappointed last week, so he couldn't be any worse than what he was last week, so he could possibly improve here. That's race number 6 on the program, 7:43 start time. That's the final pacing heat. The Group 1 feature is the Ladbrokes Proto Star, $500,000 up for grabs. This is the second iteration of this race. Last year, Fadeaways was able to run down the highlight reel. So those 2 stables are going to be strongly fancied again. Emma Stewart up against the Dixon stable, and they've got some big representation. Both of those stables, they're providing half of this field. 10 youngsters over the mile, and this is going to be a fascinating race. This is not an easy one to work out. It's hard to get a real read on all of the form because a lot of them are coming together for the first time. What are the expectations?
Yeah, I found it really difficult, Chris. The 3 Emma Stewart runners, I don't think there's a lot between them in ability. Cardigan Dan, Lucasso and Dynamite Dan. And if Dynamite Dan had drawn a gate, I might have been happy to side with him after what he did at Menangle, but back row draw now, gate 10, how does he win from there? It's really tricky. I'd have a lot of time for the 2 Dixon runners. I think Darren's prophecy last week that Fire and Passion's the one might come to fruition.
Well, you were really keen on him last week. He was successful taking out that Wayne Wilson Memorial Paleface Adios Classic. And again, he comes up with a key draw here, gate number 2. Last week in that lead-up race, we saw Pure Grunt just fly the gate and lead easily. He comes in a couple of spots this weekend, so he starts from gate 3. He had 5 last week. Do you expect him to blast off the arm and lead again?
Oh, I think he'll blast, but I don't think he gets across this week.
Okay.
I think there's more at stake this week, and I think with what we saw last week from him, with all due respect, he's a very nice horse. I think a few of these are a level above, and they won't be wanting to take that risk. Fire and Passion this week does draw side by side with him, where gate 3 was able to get across last week from a wider gate. I think Grant perhaps might have just been a little bit steady, a little bit more in the purses this week. That may not happen.
Okay, question for both, and I'll go to you firstly with this one, Ryan. Second running of this race, when you look at this field on Saturday night and you look back at last year's lineup, remembering that Fadeaways was able to beat the highlight reel, how do you think this field, 2025 edition, stacks up to last year?
Only time will tell, but the first edition was chock full of quality. Hesitate's such a lovely horse. We've had the New South Wales Oaks winner feature last year. So yeah, time will tell. I think the Emma Stewart horses are all top shelf, and same with the Dixon pair. So if half the field go on to have stellar careers, it'll be certainly a worthy addition.
Okay, Darren, your thoughts comparing the 2 years so far?
It's probably a little bit disappointing. There's been a few horses that were potentially coming have been ruled out along the way, but you look at, like Ryan said, fadeaway. So the Australian 2-year-old Colton Gelding and Filly of the Year were both in this race last year. You know, Sagano's come out and done a good job since. A few of the others certainly stepping up. So I think time will tell, but you've only got to look at their performances to date. There's feature race winners in there already. We're only halfway through the season. The season has changed dramatically now that we get a lot more features in the back end of the year, but we've still got a number of feature race winners.
Like last year, there was only the one filly, cool and classy last year. This year, Arc C. She comes into this race unbeaten. 2 starts, 2 victories. So she's giving away a fair bit of experience here, and she's got to beat the boys from an awkward draw. How do you rate her, Arc C?
I found her really hard to line up on times and margins, and for me, I'm against her here. Just the barrier. Same with Lucasso. Where are they going to get to? I have no idea. I'm assuming one of them will settle back. Does Lucasso sort of shoulder up and try and go forward? Or so I have absolutely no idea where they're going to map. If they do go forward, they're in for a tough trip. If they go back and they run 51, well, it's curtains. Yeah, really tough. Would have been good if she drew 1.
Why don't they have this as a preferential barrier draw on sex? Given that they do it for the Rising Sun, 3 and 4-year-olds, this race, 2-year-olds, you'd think the 2-year-old fillies just might need that little bit of a advantage?
Yeah, potentially. I think historically, if you look back through the record books, especially as 2-year-olds, a really good 2-year-old filly is more than competitive against the Colts and Geldings. That there's probably been a marginal shift in recent years, but you know, historically, it's certainly something that could be visited. That's for sure.
Question for you: last week, the Wayne Wilson Memorial Paleface Adios Classic. You've looked at the replay thousands of times. What was the horse that you were thinking out of that race that you wanted to back this week? Was it the winner Fire and Passion? Was it the runner-up Soho Park Avenue? Was it Rewatch? Was it a Tour Magic? Which one stood out most for you when you were analysing that video last week?
It's probably the first 2 across the line. The Stanley horse, the 25.88 last quarter, you know, we don't see them go that quick too often, do we? But in saying that, Fire and Passion just dictated from the front end and did what he had to. Like, I'm pretty sure there was more in the locker there. This week, though, I think Grant's going to have to hedge his bets because Pure Grunt's going to be chips in to try and lead. So, you know, that leader's back spot, I think, will be on offer. Does he sort of wait and see if Pure Grunt can get over and then try and be the first horse to take the front? And or can he get leaders back if Cardigan Dan's able to burrow through? So I think it's sort of like he's got to be looking at both scenarios and execute, and hopefully we see a G. Dixon masterclass.
Soho Park Avenue profiles, I wouldn't say identically, but very similar to Fader Waits. Fader Waits went into the Proto Star last year at start number 6. This is start number 6 for Soho Park Avenue, and he comes into this race off a defeat like Fader Waits did last year. Fader Waits was brilliant. He had a really good draw. In many ways, this could be a really good draw for Soho Park Avenue because he's drawn 2 off the second row, doesn't have to get involved early, and he's following a horse like Fire and Passion. Do you give him a winning chance, Soho Park Avenue?
I certainly give him a really strong winning chance. I give a winning chance to probably all bar 2 or 3 in this field, depending how it's played out. The thing that I would counter with that, at the same point in time last year, Fader Waits had won 2 or 3 races, one of them over 2100 in really slick time. Soho Park Avenue's won 1 race, and I think they ran about 2 minutes. So no times aren't everything, but I would just counter that way. That closing sectional last week, that was massive.
Yeah, huge. Did the drivers' engagement surprise you in any way for this race, Ryan?
No, they've fallen how I pretty much thought. All week I thought Cam Hart would probably go on to Dynamite Dan, and that's what's played out. Yeah, I mean, from a barrier point of view, I don't know if it's a good or a bad draw for Fight for Victory. I think, well, if you look at the running of last year's race, I think it's going to work out because if they do go supersonic time, But if they rack him and stack him, I think he'll be looking for gaps and running up behind him, and you could easily see that he doesn't get a lot of joy.
His gate speed is the big unknown, isn't it? Fight for Victory. It doesn't look like he possesses great gate speed, so does this draw make it potentially sticky for him?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Cardigan Dan, if he gets crossed anyway, well, probably doesn't factor in anyway because he's at least another position back. That said, I do think Cardigan Dan can lead, and I think Fight for Victory can punch through and hold his back. Whether that plays out, it's hard to know with 2-year-olds too, because some of them potentially could get here and get lost. There will be a big crowd this week. A few of those might not know what's going on.
Okay. What are you tipping?
I'm tipping sort of the most professional customer who's in the pack, and that's, I think, Fire and Passion. He just continues to do things so well. The horse I'm most scared of, though, is Fight for Victory, the stablemate. I think if they go absolutely hammer down and this horse does see daylight, we could see something very, very special. So the 2 horses from the good draw, I've got them on top. I think they'll be lead and trail with Cardigan Dan in front, Fire and Passion on his back, and fingers crossed, Fight for Victory 3 fence, and the Victorian in for 4th.
Which way are you going, Darren?
I'm going Fight for Victory, Chris. I think if his lead's back, even if he's 3 fence, I'll say that with a caveat as well. That is off my scenario of Fire and Passion not finding the pegs. I think if Fire and Passion finds the pegs, I think it's game over. I think he wins because he is all class. I don't think he gets to the pegs, and for that reason, we saw in the Breeders' Classic earlier this year, Fire and Passion had to park up, Fight for Victory, swept home from the back, massive run, huge performance. Interesting preparation into this race, fresh off that win. His trial last week, his trial was good. It wasn't anything spectacular. That would be, I'm not sure, but it's Fight for Victory on top, Fire and Passion, Cardigan Dan, and I'm throwing in the Sanderson horse, a Tour Magic. Maybe Shane can be the homecoming king with a Tour Magic. So 8, 2, 1 and 4 for me.
Yeah, I'm with 8 as well. Fight for Victory. 9 Soho Park Avenue, I think, is going to be the real value play in this race. I think he was around double figures at one point, so he's well worth a spec there. Cardigan Dan, Fire and Passion. Just with Fire and Passion, only the 1 defeat, that was at the hands of Fight for Victory in that Breeders' Classic. He couldn't lead in that race, so he was forced to do some work. So is that a case, maybe he's just a little bit of a flat track bully right now?
I think that's a bit harsh. He did all the work in that defeat, and it was on I think that was a really wet night, and he sat parked and kind of was the horse to try to play and force it. Oh, totally forgiving on that run. And for me here, I see that I predict he'll either lead or be leaders back, so bring on the bully.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see. That's going to be a ripper. That's race number 7. It's the Group 1 Ladbrokes Proto Star. That race gets underway at 8:19. Time now to find a good thing or two for this big 10-race program, night 2 of the Interdominion Series. Our first race getting underway at 4:54. Ryan, you can do the honours. Who was our best bet on this big card?
Found it tough to just single one out, but I stuck with the champ. Leap to fame for me. The $1.60 floating around, that's good enough. Out to a staying trip here in the second round of the Interdominion. Okay.
Darren, your best bet?
Yeah, race 8, the Kevin Thomas 4-year-old, the Janitor, absolutely massive last week in that Rising Sun, 3 wide to the breeze, 3 wide the first 700 and boxed on, so he will atone.
Okay, I'm coming up. I'm going to strike early. Race 1, number 1, Meg's Boy. Draws the ace. This is the JC McMullen, so it's fitting that we have the JC McMullen and the Kevin Thomas on the same feature race program. And I think Meg's Boy is drawn to go all of the way. He looks a progressive type. Team battle, Nathan Dawson. Yes, please, for me. So race 1, number 1, Meg's Boy. Now, as far as the quaddie, I'll go first here. First leg, races 5 through 8. So this is the Trotters Heat. I'm going to go 1, 4, 8, 12, Oscar Bonavina, Parisian Artiste, RC Phoenix and Harry Stamper. 3 and 7, Speak the Truth, Captain's Knock. In race number 7, the Proto Star, 1, 2, 8, 9, Cardigan Dan, Fire and Passion, Fight for Victory, Soho Park Avenue. And in the Kevin Thomas, the last leg, 4, 5 and 13. Major hot, better than cash. The Janitor, $96 for 100% of the dividend. You can play that to suit your own budget. Darren, what's your quaddie?
Yeah, so 1 and 8 from 3 and 7 from 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 in that Proto Star from Janitor locked away for 13. So first leg we've got Oscar and RC Phoenix. Second leg we've got Speak the Truth or Captain's Knock. The Proto Star, like I mentioned, I think this is wide open. So we've got Cardigan Dan, Fire and Passion, Atua Magic, Arc C, Picasso, Fight for Victory, and Soho Park Avenue, the Janitor, locked and loaded.
Hey Ryan, your quaddie.
Yeah, playing wide this week, Chris. A little typo in the first there. We've gone with Oscar Bonavina, Parisian Artiste, Constantinople, and that should read number 8, RC Phoenix. I just wanted to go a little wide there just in case Oscar and RC get tangled up at the start into what looks like a 2-horse race on paper. Speak the Truth, Captain's Knock. Yeah, going really wide in the Proto Star, pretty much including half the field. And then in the last, Royal Cruiser, who I think will be the leader. The Kiwi, Better Than Cash, who blew up the clock last week with a 52 last half. Attachment, who maps to get just such a charmed, beautiful run on the back of Royal Cruiser. And my boy, the Janitor, he nearly got the job done last week. Yeah, I think he can atone here.
Okay, so that's our thoughts, our best bets and quaddie combos for night 2 of the Inter-Dominion. We're going to see everyone trackside tomorrow night. It's going to be a fabulous night, including that heat featuring Don Hugo, Leap to Fame, head-to-head. The reigning champ up against the series favourite. What a clash that's going to be. And that juvenile feature, the Ladbrokes Proto Star, is an absolute ripper. 10 race program, our first race getting underway at 4:54.